Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Welcome, everyone. And before we get started with this week's podcast episode, I just want to throw out a final reminder for our Mystical Life Coach certification, which is starting the second week in January. With just a couple weeks away now, we're taking our final applications for this coming year. So if you've listened to any of these podcasts and you're interested in learning this work and becoming a coach and earning a certification, please fill out the application below and jump on a quick consultation with me. We can talk about what this might look for you. It is a personal journey of transformation, one in which you go deeply within yourself, you learn to heal, and then most importantly, you learn how to give that gift to other people. You learn the skill of becoming a coach. So please fill out the application, jump on a consultation, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. And please enjoy this episode. Thanks.
Hello, mystical beings. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. So let's dive in to our topic for today, which is all about giving advice, especially the unsolicited kind. Such horrific programming of separation that we have been brainwashed to show up as and conditioned to show up as. And I want you to understand this on a more elevated level today in this episode, that giving advice forces disconnection and separation with others. It's very forceful. So let's understand first what this means. Now, I'm going to be referring to giving advice as unsolicited advice, your knee-jerk reaction to somebody the second they start sharing something with you. The second they share something with you, this is 99% of humans do this constantly, instantly, always fucking vomiting your goddamn advice. And half the time, it's about shit you know nothing about. But you're going to give advice just because somebody opened their mouth and they're sharing with you about something. Well, you should do this. So how about try that? Why don't you go like this and then do that? You know what you should try? Let me tell you what you all should try. You should all try shutting the fuck up and becoming the way of presence. I'm going to really dissect this for you so you can understand that it forces disconnection and separation and also creates resistance to you. People don't want to then be around you anymore. They don't want to hear from you. They don't want to spend a lot of quote unquote quality time with you. They don't want to communicate with you so much anymore. I don't want to hear it. It creates resistance to you. I want you to understand the domino effect of these programs and how they sabotage your relationships, your friendships, especially your marriages, your romantic partnerships. Okay, I'm going to dissect this for you so you really get it, so that you can awaken, look in the mirror, and start to self-reflect, and then eventually become self-aware in real time of what you are doing to create the disconnection with your spouse, your partner, your friendships, your family members, what you're doing to create separation. Nobody wants to fucking be around you when all you're constantly doing is giving advice. Oh my God. Especially if you yourself are not healed, whole, elevated. How the fuck do you think you have any right to give advice to somebody else? Really let that sink in. Aw, anybody offended yet? That shows how much growing up and healing and elevating you need to do, doesn't it? It's not an insult. That's an invitation to wake up for real, instead of all this pretend pseudo waking up we like to do and call ourselves woke. So let's really understand this. I observe this fucking constantly. I observe it in every setting I'm in, no matter where I'm at, I see other people doing this to people constantly. I get paid an incredible amount of money to give guidance to people in their lives. Okay. And people do it to me all the time. I'm like, do you know I get actually paid a lot of money to help guide people in their lives? And you're giving me advice. I'm not the first person who needs advice here. Oh, aren't you arrogant? Oh, are you projecting again? Look at your fucking programming, listener. Let's wake up and become more mature than that. Let this sink in. Would you accept advice from a second grader who thinks they have the most intelligent level of guidance to offer to you? And it doesn't mean for a second grader they're not brilliant. But a second grader doesn't know jack shit about life yet. They're not inferior. That's just a fucking fact. They haven't been alive long enough. They're not cognitively developed enough. They're not emotionally developed enough to tell you what you should be doing in your life. That's all. They're just in a different grade right now. They're not there yet. And people who are so unevolved or who have done work and they are healing, they have been evolving, they have been working on themselves. And then suddenly that spiritual ego, that personal development ego grabs hold of them and they think they have the answer to everything for everyone all the time. And they vomit their unsolicited advice. Let's understand what you're doing when somebody is sharing something with you, just sharing something. Oh my gosh, guess what happened today? Oh my God, guess what I'm going through right now? And you immediately try to give them advice like they fucking need it. Now, I've covered this topic before. I mean, in a million different ways. And because this is a huge, unconscious, unawakened program that people run. And it is so prevalent. But what I want to teach you today in a more elevated way is you are instantly, energetically creating disconnection, separation, and resistance to you. Here's how. You really need to understand this part first. When someone is sharing with you, why do we share? Now, I'm not talking about, vomiting their trauma, hoping you'll heal them for free. I'm not talking, just sharing. Okay. When you elevate and you awaken and you connect to your divinity and you learn what it means to energetically connect to your soul, the eternal you that you are, and you learn to heal yourself. You don't need other people to then heal you. You are powerful, you are divine, and you heal yourself. You are also emotionally mature enough as you're becoming the universal ways of oneness. The first one, the way of responsibility. As you're becoming these elevated enlightened frequencies, if you need extra guidance, extra help, you will seek out the appropriate professional, expert, coach, teacher, healer, counselor, whatever. The way of responsibility, when you're becoming that way of oneness, and you need extra help, you need extra guidance, you're lost, you're confused. That's normal. That's part of what it means to be human, is to go through phases of that. Of course, there are times in your life where you want advice, and becoming the way of responsibility means, ooh, I need someone who knows more than me about this right now to help me. I don't care if it's my car's making a funny noise, and before I take it into the mechanic, you know everything about cars. I'm going to ask you first. Even just that simple example. That is the way of responsibility. I don't want to go in and be taken advantage of. Can I ask you a couple things? And, is there any advice you could give to me regarding this? It could be something as simple as that. My car's making a weird noise. You know everything about cars. Can I ask you that question? We share with people. Let me digress. When we are becoming the way of responsibility, that first universal way of oneness, when we are becoming that way of oneness, we know when to seek help. We know when to ask for advice, and we know who to ask for advice. You are not the way of responsibility when you are struggling in your marriage or your partnership, for example, and you just ask your friend what you should do. The fuck does your friend know about relationships? Are they a relationship coach? Are they a relationship expert? Are they an elevated, highly conscious being who does this for a living? No, they're my best friend. So they're going to tell you every fucking thing you want to hear. They're going to tell you you're right. Yeah, she's blah, blah, blah. Sounds awful. Oh, he's a blah, blah, blah. Sounds awful. That's not the way of responsibility. That's the way of stupidity. Echo chambers, going to people, going to your tribes, and just having people tell you what you want to fucking hear. That's not the way of responsibility. When you are becoming the way of responsibility, you know who to seek out. And it is going to be somebody who's going to tell you what you want to hear, somebody who's going to tell you what you need to hear so that you can heal and evolve out of the situation that you and others have created for one another. Okay? That's part of the way of responsibility. Now, when that is not what you're doing, because you don't need the expert, you don't need the elevated person right now. You're just hanging out with your friends, or you're hanging out talking to your partner, your spouse, while cooking dinner or eating dinner together or something. Okay? You're driving the car going on a trip somewhere and you're just chatting away and you start sharing something. When you're sharing something about yourself, your life, a story, the conflict you had with your friend and you're now sharing with your spouse, whatever. Sharing means connection, divine connection. I'm telling you how I feel because energetically, that is what creates connection between you and myself. Whether you consciously know that or not, that's happening. A child who is sharing and expressing their feelings to their parent, to an adult, to someone, they're sharing in order to connect. Now, when a child does it, they're doing it maybe because they're sad or scared or they're insecure, or they don't know what to do, or they're still sharing with you. Why does this create connection? Let's go deeper. It also helps to develop not just the way of connection, that universal way of oneness, but also the way of trust. It is an emotional bonding. It creates the way of trust. That if I share with you and you are simply open to receiving me, you are open to being the divine spaciousness, the active listener. You're listening just to understand. Now, what way of oneness am I describing here? The way of presence. So if you are showing up, receiving me as the way of presence while I share with you, so you're showing up as the way of presence. The way of presence out of 20 universal ways of oneness is number 5. If you show up as the way of presence and just receive and just listen, actively listen, you're listening to understand me. You're not judging me. You're not giving me advice. You're not telling me how to be better or what I should do. You're listening to understand me. You're listening to understand my pain, my frustration, my sadness, my worry, my whatever. You are showing up as the way of presence. And guess what that leads into? Guess what that automatically allows to then be created when you are the way of presence with a person who is sharing something with you? That leads to the way of connection. That means the divine you connects heart to heart with the divinity of that other person. You've now created the way of connection between two people energetically. Okay. When you can create divine connection between two people energetically, there are other ways of oneness, that come with harmlessness and gentleness, for example, because you're not judging them. You're simply allowing them, you're meeting them where they are, and you're allowing them to just be them. You're allowing them to share in whatever way they need to share. If they're angry, they're angry. If they're frustrated, they're frustrated. If they're, loud and they change their tone of voice and they're whatever, I can't, oh, I fucking hate this. You are the way of presence. That creates the way of connection. Okay. The way of connection, of course, You have compassion. You can become the way of compassion. You're not judging them. You're not telling them they need to lower their voice and they need to change who they are in that moment. That's harmlessness and gentleness. You go on and on until you create the way of trust. I could be here for 6 hours breaking down every way of oneness that is in between the way of presence and the way of trust. The way of trust is number 10 out of 20. Okay. Not going to do that. I want to keep it simple for the sake of a podcast, but stay with me for a minute. Stay here. You're laying, because the foundation to the way of trust, you're laying the foundation to the way of trust is emotional trust, energetic trust. You're doing that when you show up as the way of presence. The way of presence doesn't give advice, generally speaking, unless maybe somebody asks you. But if somebody's just sharing something with you and you immediately start telling them how to do things and why and what they should do and why, you are forcing disconnection with that person. You're forcing separation because you're not receiving them. You're controlling them. You're shutting them down. You're suppressing their emotions and their voice because they can't simply share with you without you interrupting and talking over and giving them advice and telling them what to do. They're not there for that. And when it's your partner, spouse, friend, family member, child, etc., when it's a loved one, understand what it is energetically that you are actually doing. How are you actually showing up versus how your ego likes to tell you you're showing up? Well, I'm just helping. No, you're fucking not. I'm being supportive. No, you're fucking not. I'm trying to support you and help you. No, you're fucking not. You are destroying intimacy in these moments. Energetically, you are destroying intimacy. You are literally creating and manifesting disconnection and separation. You're forcing a disconnection and separation between you and the other person when you don't have the fucking ability to simply receive what they have to share with you. That is nothing but disconnection. They're trying to connect. You're disconnecting. You're separating because you think you know, you're in your fucking mind. That shows a level of addiction to mind. You can't even listen to what somebody has to say without interrupting and telling them immediately what they should be doing about it. You didn't listen to shit. Just receive them. This is a problem we have in our society and with humans and the way we have been conditioned. Open your heart when someone shares. I tell you, I shared this recently in a story that I shared about going to my niece's fencing match. Started fencing. She's 8 years old. It's adorable, and she was upset because she didn't score any points against her opponent, and immediately the adults around her started to tell her what to do. Do this, try that, giving her advice. I was like, I want to punch you all in the fucking face. Just shut up. Shut the fuck up and become the way of fucking presence. For Christ's sake, this is how we destroy children. And we force them to disconnect from their own divinity because we're not showing up for them in ours. Shut the fuck up. Let the kid just share. Stop telling. First of all, none of you are fencing coaches. You've never fenced in your life. You don't know what the fuck this sport is. You didn't even think it was real except for on TV up until a few months ago. And you're going to give fencing advice, instructions for her to get better at fencing. Oh my God, we are idiots. And we have no fucking idea we're doing it in the moment. This is a simple, everyday example. A simple living your life where the esoteric teachings are very, very practical to enhance and enlighten your relationships and your everyday experiences. One of the best things you can learn how to do to enlighten your life and advance and elevate and create beautiful, harmonious connection, loving connection between you and others, your family members, your loved ones, neighbors, doesn't matter who, is shut the fuck up. Shut up. Stop telling everybody what to do. Stop giving the fucking advice that you have no place opening your mouth and speaking on. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, but your ego likes to tell you you know something. And I'm not saying any of this in judgment. I am inviting you to wake up for real and see every damn way that you create separation and disconnection. You think you're connecting because you're giving advice. You're not. You're destroying your relationships. People don't want to hear that. When somebody shares with you and you go, oh, yeah. Well, I feel like that too, because, oh my God, you just destroyed emotional intimacy. You disconnected. You created separation. You literally pushed that person so far away from you. Shut up. Shut up. Be quiet. Close your mouth and open your heart. Listen to your partner, your spouse, your family members, your loved ones. Listen to people with an open heart. Stop listening to them with your egoic, dualistic separation consciousness, batshit crazy, know-it-all fucking mind. Your mind doesn't know how to do anything but create separation because it has been conditioned with separation consciousness. So everything coming out of your fucking mouth in that moment is creating nothing but separation between you and that person. And then you wonder why people resist you. Okay, they start to get agitated. You can see it in the child. You can see it in your partner. Looking down, being quiet, shutting down, wanting to get away from you. And then you have the arrogance. I'm just trying to help. I'm being supportive. No, you're fucking not. Do you hear me when I say that to you? You are not being emotionally supportive. You're not. You're being a fucking know-it-all who has no ability to listen, who has no ability to lovingly open your heart and receive the invitation to divine connection that that person offered to you, because you can't shut the fuck up long enough and get out of your goddamn mind in order to join them in oneness and create divine connection together. That is the opposite of being supportive of somebody. Just fucking listen, and listen to learn, listen to understand, listen with an openness and open heart. You don't have to say any fucking thing. So, I know a lot of you listening to this are realizing, oh my God, I do that all the time. Anytime you're like, yeah, me too. Oh, I know. I do that too. But just shut up and let somebody share. You'll get a turn to talk. If it's not your turn to talk yet, or you want to interrupt and talk over to share your story, make it all about you, that's selfishness. Holy egocentric. Jesus. Shut up and let it be about someone else. They're done sharing. You validate, you acknowledge, you ask questions of curiosity in order to understand more deeply with them. That's the way of connection. That's the way of presence. You are offering them the way of presence because you are the way of presence. That is what allows you to become the way of connection between two people, because you're connected to divinity. The way of connection, when you evolve and become the way of connection, that universal way of oneness, that way of connection means you're connected to divinity first. You're connected to your higher soul first, not another human being on this planet, not an animal, no one, no being on this planet. You are connected to divinity, which means then the only thing you have to offer another person is divinity itself, because that's you. If you are connected to your programming, your egocentric self, your dualistic crazy mind, that is what you're offering to that person. Unsolicited advice, you don't know shit. You just want to talk to be heard because it makes you feel important and special because you know, or you're doing it to shut them up so you don't have to listen to them anymore. Some people do that. Wow. That's not supportive. I'm just trying to help. No, you're fucking not. You're trying to shut them up, make them go away so you don't have to listen to this anymore. What selfish fucking asshole are you? That's not love. It's a lack of divinity. That is a lack of unconditional love. That is a lack of harmlessness and gentleness. It's a lack of compassion. It's not, it's a disconnection. You're not being divine at all. And then you'll tell yourself that you're the one who's being supportive when you're not. You're destroying emotional intimacy, connection, oneness, because you can't show up in it. You're not being it. Hear that. Just listen. Shut up. Breathe. Open your heart. If you're unsure, if this is newer to you and you start to put this into practice with your loved ones, all you have to do is say, thank you for sharing that with me. Is there anything that I can do to help you feel supported by me right now? You can always ask that question. If somebody actually wants advice, yeah, what do I do? What are your thoughts? Now, here's what's funny about this. When you're coming from everything I've described so far in this episode, that energy, unsolicited advice, you're closed, you know it all, you want to immediately, all the things I've already described. Nobody wants your fucking advice when that is the energy you're coming from. Now, you could even have something incredible to say that would help that person. Guess what? They're closed to you because you energetically created resistance and a closed offness. I know it's not a real word. I'm going to say it anyway. They close off to you. You created that because of how energetically you are showing up. You activate that and you trigger that in another person. You create that when you lack the way of presence, what that enlightened definition means. When you lack, when you are not the way of connection, that enlightened definition. When you don't know energetically how to be that as a being, the consequence of that is shut down, closed off, resistance, annoyance, frustration, a closed heart to you. That is what you are creating in the other person. When you show up energetically the way you are showing up in the ways I've described. Now, if you are the way of presence, if you are the way of patience, and if you are the way of responsibility, which means the way of responsibility knows, I know how I'm supposed to show up for this person right now. I'm going to become the way of patience. That's the way of responsibility. I'm going to become the way of patience, the way of surrender in this moment. Energetically, those are vibrational frequencies for me to become. As you become the ways of oneness, become the way of presence, become the way of connection for that person, harmlessness and gentleness, compassion, etc. If I am that for you in this moment, I am nothing but divinity for you. What I am offering to you simply by being me are divine, enlightened vibrational frequencies. So in my presence, that's what you receive. That's what you experience. That's what you feel emotionally, mentally, energetically. Do you understand? That is what you create when you are the ways of oneness for a person who's sharing something with you. And then they'll say, do you have any advice for me? Oh, they're so open. Why are they so open to receiving you? Because you were open to receiving them first. Do you get it? That's oneness. Let that sink in, what I just said. Because you were open to receiving them first, they then are open to receiving maybe what you have to share, if there's something to share. And that sharing, obviously, if you are the ways of oneness, doesn't come from your egoic fucking mind. It comes from divinity itself. You are divinity. When you're open, you're creating in oneness consciousness and openness naturally as a byproduct. Stay with me. This is critical. When you are closed off to hearing them in active listening in the way of presence, when you are closed to them, which you are, when you are giving them unsolicited advice and telling them what to do and how to do it, and here's how they need to fix their problems, and here's how they need to get better. When that is what energetically you're offering to them, understand now at a more elevated level what you are actually vomiting and projecting onto them. A lack of listening, which means you are closed. You are in judgment. You're in the energy of I know it all, but you're trapped in your fucking mind. Mental energy never feels good, you guys. It creates anxiety. It is the energy of anxiety, mental programs, all that being trapped in mind creates nothing but this high nervous anxiety type of energy that never feels good. You are closed. Your heart is closed because your heart being open is what listens and receives another person with no judgment. You're receiving, you have an openness to you, right? So if you approach somebody when they start to share with you something that they are frustrated about, or they're just sharing a story that happened, or they're a hardship or something they're upset about, doesn't matter what they're sharing. Just shut the fuck up and open and listen. Christ almighty, it's not hard. When you don't do that, what are you offering to them energetically? A closed heart. You're offering them selfishness. Think about this. You're offering them resistance. You are resisting them how they are in this moment because you don't want to hear, or you just want them to shut up, or you want them to get the story over with, or you want to give them advice and tell them what to do. That is a closed energy. You are the one offering resistance to them. And then you will have the ignorance and the arrogance to say, I'm just being supportive and helping, and you don't listen to anything I say. You don't want to hear. You're the one in resistance. You wonder why the fuck they turn around and resist you and what you have to offer. Because what you're offering to them in the way of truth is resistance, is a closed heart, is a selfishness. Why are you so selfish? You have to give fucking advice all the time. Shut up. Just fucking listen. Be the way of presence, be the way of connection, be the way of harmlessness and gentleness, be the way of compassion for what they're going through right now. When you show up energetically with that openness, the way of presence, connected to nothing but your divinity, the way of connection, zero judgment, nothing abrasive, no unsolicited advice, the way of compassion, the way of harmlessness and gentleness. When you show up that way, that is energetically the vibrational frequencies that you are offering to them energetically as a byproduct. Organically, it is an invitation for them, because you received them in openness, the way of presence. They can receive you in openness, the way of presence. It's an invitation for them to also be the way of presence. When that invitation is met by the other person, organically, you've just evolved into the way of connection. There's a beautiful heart-to-heart connection there. You are now functioning in the way of presence and the way of connection and the way of responsibility, of course, because my responsibility is to be the way of patience and surrender and truth and connection, etc. Do you understand? The way of presence. That is my responsibility to show up that way when I am with another being on this planet, period end. That's what enlightened beings of oneness consciousness, of the universal ways of oneness, do. They become, which means they simply are. I am what I am. Do you see it? And when I am open and I am the way of connection, I am the way of presence, and I am the way of truth, and I am, and I am, and I am oneness consciousness. It creates the power, the alchemy, the divinity, the divine invitation for another person to show up in that way as well. This is a more elevated teaching and what mirrors are. Mirrors reflecting back to us how we are showing up. It's a more elevated way to be able to see it with divine sight. So if somebody shares with you, if your spouse, your partner shares something with you, and your knee-jerk reaction, or your child shares something, your knee-jerk reaction is to immediately give them fucking advice about something. You are the one who is unconscious and functioning at a low level of consciousness, not the person who's trying to share. You see it? Because you're closed, you're not receiving them openly, the way of presence. You're not receiving them, which means impossible to create the way of connection. You cannot have the way of connection if you don't first have the way of presence. Can't have the way of presence if you don't first have the way of responsibility and knowing what is my responsibility in this moment with this person. You don't even have the patience to shut the fuck up long enough to listen. You're certainly not in the way of surrender because you're not in flow with this other person. You're actually resisting the other person. If you're in resistance to the other person, that's non-surrender to what is. If they're emotional about something and you're uncomfortable with their emotion, that's your low emotional IQ. That is your resistance to them. And then you think giving them advice is going to open them. We've been brainwashed by separation consciousness. This creates nothing but disconnection and separation. Do you see it? My responsibility is to become every goddamn way of oneness. That's the first way of oneness, the way of responsibility. So somebody's sharing, I have to have the patience with them. I pause, I breathe, I open my heart. That's the way of patience. Because I am the way of patience, I easily elevate as they share with me into the way of surrender. The way of surrender means I'm flowing with what is. I have zero resistance to their emotions, to how they're showing up, to what their opinions are, to the way in which they're sharing. They don't have to change their tone of voice. That is the way of surrender. Zero resistance to what is right now because it is what is. And if I resist what is happening, like what is the truth, they already shared that. They already feel that way. If I resist that, I'm crazy. That allows us to flow in and elevate to the way of truth. The way of surrender, being in flow with what is, zero resistance, allows us to become the way of truth. What is the way of truth? This has nothing to do with me. It's not personal. I don't need to give fucking advice like I know it all. What am I trying to prove? Why am I selfishly trying to make this about me instead of selflessly being here for someone else? That is the way of truth. The way of truth allows us to see that we are the way of truth. That allows us to more easily elevate and become the way of presence for this person. So I cannot make it about myself selfishly. And I can actively listen and open even more expansively and simply receive you as you are with anything and everything you have to share. And because of that, organically, what happens next is an elevation into the way of connection. And this is how we become every way of oneness in a simple interaction. And because I am now showing up that way energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, with you, for you, in this moment, in oneness with you, that's what allows the other person to also show up that way with you. That's when, is there anything I can do to make you feel supported by me right now? They'll ask you for it. Yeah, do you have any advice? Or no, just thank you for listening. That's what I needed. That's all I needed was to share. Why? Because that is the way of connection. And you also understand now the other ways that are weaved in there. The mirror to you, especially in your romantic relationships, your close relationships. I'm always trying to support you. But are you? Because support is everything I just described in becoming the ways of oneness. That's emotional support. Giving unsolicited advice like you know it, I'm making it about yourself. Take things personally isn't fucking support. It's immaturity. It's a low emotional IQ. It's an arrogance. It's a selfishness. It is a being who is conditioned to function in separation consciousness and disconnection, not oneness, not the way of connection or the way of presence or any of the other ways. And certainly not in the way of selfless service. We're making everything about me. I'm going to give you advice because I want to. That's selfish. Let your partner, your spouse, your child, your loved one just share. That is not the same thing as letting somebody dump on you for an hour. That isn't a part of this teaching today in this episode. That's a whole nother topic. And guess what? if you experience that and people are just dumping on you and you're a dumping ground, they vomit all their emotions and all their complaining and all their for an hour. You're the one who needs to set a healthy boundary. You're the one in powerlessness, not them. And be careful what you judge as emotional vomiting, dumping, energy vampires. Because some people like to project that simply somebody sharing something, they twist it and manipulate that around and call it complaining and dumping and all the things. Careful. Self-awareness, the way of truth. The way of truth allows us to see these things in the way of truth, universal truth. Okay? So, if you haven't purchased the book, Mason's Way, The 20 Universal Ways of Oneness yet on Amazon, please get it. Learn about the ways of oneness, become the ways. Okay? I hope you understand in this episode more deeply, those of you who run the programs but why do they resist me when I'm trying to be there for them and support them? Because you're not being there for them. You're not supporting. You're actually being incredibly selfish. I hope you can see that now, those of you who run the programs I explained and described in this episode. You're the one who's in resistance to them. You're the one who's closed, not open. You're the one who lacks presence. And when you're showing up that way and you think you're giving this supportive, loving advice, and I hope you realize now what you are actually doing, which is why they then don't want to fucking hear you. Stop telling me what to do. Stop giving me advice. Stop telling me what the fuck to do. I don't need you to tell me what the fuck to do. I don't need you to tell me how to fix anything. Fuck. So fucking frustrating. Ugh. I was frustrated before. I tried to share in connection, and now I'm even more fucking frustrated with you. You wonder why they are resisting you so much because you're the one who showed up with resistance. Ooh, see it? People claim all the time they want conscious partnerships and sacred relationships. And these are the things, this is how they're showing up in their relationships. And they're like, oh, I haven't met the right one yet. You're not the right one yourself. When this is how you're showing up. So I hope this helps you to see how you're actually showing up. These are the programs that we run and we have no idea in the moment we're running them. And then we're like, oh my God, why are relationships so hard? Well, they're not. They're not. You're the one who's hardened. You're the one who's making them hard. You're the one in so much resistance, and you think your partner's the one in resistance. And it all starts with just shut the fuck up. You can start to shift these things, these interactions in your relationships, these communications and the conflict. You can start to shift them into a more harmonious vibrational frequency when you just shut the fuck up. Just start with shutting up. Start there. If you want a much higher level of help, then go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. Of course, look at our coaching programs, look at our relationship coaching, look at our just go get a free consultation. And we'll talk to you in the consultation about what we have to offer, what we can help you join a group, whatever. Okay. We'll help you decide what's best for you in your scenario. Join our free Discord channel. You could start there. That's our community on Discord. You could always go there. But whatever you may do to get the professional, the expert level of help, the one thing you can start to do right in this moment is just practice shutting the fuck up. Just shut up and listen with your heart. Open your heart. Listen with your heart. Listen with your soul. Stop pretending like listening comes from your mind. Stop listening with your mind. That's ego, that's shadow self, that's programs. Those are unhealed wounds. That's selfishness. Stop it. Get out of your mind, drop into your heart. Open your heart, listen with your heart. That's the way of responsibility, first of all. And that leads you to the way of patience, to the way of surrender, to the way of truth, to the way of presence, which leads you to the way of connection. Stop forcing separation between you and another. Stop forcing the disconnection. You're the one creating it and making it happen. When you can't shut up long enough to just have someone share with you without making it about you and sharing your story next. Stop it. Or giving unsolicited advice. Here's what to do. Here's how to fix it. Here's what you should do. Have you tried this? You should try that. Shut the fuck up. Listen, receive. That's it. Practice that. Become a more elevated being who can sit with the patience and the stillness of presence and surrender and be in flow with a person who's sharing with them. That's a becoming. That's a more elevated, more divine being. That's what you're being challenged to become. Okay? That's your invitation. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, share this with everybody you know. Thank you for listening. I really hope that helped you. Put that into practice, what I offered to you today. Practice, practice, practice. Become. That's how you elevate. That's how you elevate. If you need more help, go to mastersofselfuniversity.com, get a free consultation, join our coaching programs, grab that 20 universal ways of oneness, and at least start there. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now, everybody.